Alright guys, it's Ayush back again with another tutorials type of thing, and today we're going to be talking about something completely different. So this is going to mark the start of a completely new class. So far we've talked about neuroscience, the fundamentals of neuroscience and neurobiology. We've talked about chemistry, simple basic AP chemistry level stuff, chem lab stuff, and today we're going to actually start a new class altogether, and this is biochemistry. So biochemistry is obviously, as the name suggests, it's a combination of bio and chemistry. And this is an extremely, important subject, especially to those that are, for say, going into the biology field or life sciences field, because this is kind of the nitty-gritty details of what's actually going on in the back of, our body. So we're going to start out today, or we're going to start out the class by talking about, first we're going to talk about acids and bases. We're going to talk about acids and bases, and obviously we're going to go through some pH stuff as a review. So this video is meant to be a review. It's great if you can check this out. If you think it's not necessary, go ahead and move on to the next video. So we're going to start out with just some pH basics, and essentially pH is the potential of hydrogen. And potential of hydrogen means nothing but how much hydrogen is created. Now you must be thinking, okay, hydrogen is being created. It's actually not just hydrogen, it's either H plus, or you could think of it as H3O plus. This is the hydrogen ion, and this is the hydronium ion. Now both of them have the same concept. Essentially when you have, say, an acid, HA, it's added to water, which is acting as a base, it creates H3O plus A minus. And that A minus comes from over here. Essentially what happens is this HA dissociates the extra H over here. It gets added on to the hydrogen and becomes hydronium. And essentially, since hydronium has the same charge and properties as just a hydrogen atom, or as a hydrogen protein, we just write it as H plus goes to A minus. So how much hydrogen is created, which means how much is produced. That's what is measured by the pH. So, for example, let's just go through an example. How about that? Let's say I just realized I'm blocking the view. So, there. That helps. That's great. Let's just go through the basics of pH stuff. Alright, sweet. Sorry about that. So we're going to start out by talking about pH as a mathematical notion. So pH is obviously, it's a mathematical notion, and it quantifies how potential of hydrogen is. And so obviously you might have heard of pH as being on a 14-point scale. 14 scale. And it measures acidity. Or you can call it basicity. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to say we have more of the acidic stuff down over here in the 1, 2, 3. It starts getting less acidic. 4, 5. It just keeps on getting less acidic. 6 until we reach 7. So 7 basically means that anything that's a 7 pH can act as either an acid or a base, and that's determined by what's in its presence. So for example, water is of that sort. And then after that, we get more basic. So we get like 8, 9. Yeah, it's hard to see, but that's the point. And then you get like 10, 11, 12. And then we get 13 and 14. So here we have created a spectrum where the most acidic thing is over here, and the most basic thing is down here. All right. So, given equations like I've written up above, I'll just write it again. HA plus H2O dissociates to form A minus plus H plus. Often you'll be given how much H plus is formed and how much A minus is formed. Or you'll be given that, okay, HA, this might be a strong acid that's being dissolved. For example, this could be HCl, HBr, HI. Could be like HNO3, H2SO4. I'm forgetting one. It's HClO4. These are your strong acids. And when they mix with a water, right? I'll just put it as water. They form, or they completely dissociate and form H plus and Cl minus. So they completely just break up. This one would form Br minus plus H plus. Hi would obviously form Ai minus plus H plus. NO3 would form NO3 minus plus H plus. H2SO4 is a tricky one, but it will form HSO4 2 minus plus H plus, and it forms 2H plus because this is actually polyprotic. And then obviously ClO4 goes to ClO4 minus plus H plus. But the point I'm trying to make is if I start out with, say, 1 molar HCl and it's completely dissolved, that means I'm going to have 1 molar of H plus here. I'm going to have 1 molar of Cl minus. And we know the concentration of H plus then. So for example, let's go on and define what pH is on a logarithmic scale. This is what scientists use to actually define pH, to actually quantify it. So pH is nothing but the negative log of the concentration of H plus. And if you remember your logarithmic rules, you can put that minus up as an exponent here, and you can rewrite that as log of 1 over H plus as well. And remember, these brackets, they signify concentration. They signify concentration. So, going back to up here, where I'm saying that we're going to have 1 molar of H plus that's formed. So, just plugging that in, so let's say when H plus is equal to, wait a minute, H plus is equal to 1 molar, we have pH is equal to negative log of 1. And guess what? 10 raised to the power 1 equals 1, 0. So this is the most acidic thing you can get. It's the most acidic, it's 0. Obviously, sometimes polyprotic acids you might see getting negative numbers, but that's something we're going to talk about maybe in a later moment. But here we have 0, and that's your answer. However, there's other ways to quantify pH, and another concept is pOH. So, something to realize about H and OH, why are we using these? Because, let's go back to the water. Water is an important thing. When it dissolves, H2O, it forms H plus plus OH minus. So, these are the two parts that we see in acids and bases. So, the addition of H plus in something is an acid, while the addition of OH minus in something is called the base. And we can further go ahead and clarify these things by using the Arrhenius definition, where something that donates H plus is an Arrhenius acid. So donating H plus is an Arrhenius acid. Now donating OH minus in a similar fashion would be a Arrhenius base. Donating OH minus Arrhenius base. So everything that's related to pH can be expressed in the forms of H plus and OH minus. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to determine one link between these two. And that common link is that if we have a pH of some substance equaling to X, that would mean that the pOH, or the potential of creating hydroxyl, would be 14 minus that. So since, remember, pH is on a 14 level scale. If I have a potential to create hydrogen of 7, that means I have an equal potential to create hydroxyl of 7. If I have a potential of hydrogen to create hydrogen of, say, 13, I'll have a potential to create hydroxyl of 1. So the equation is to relate these two. So pH plus pOH equals 14. Now wait just a minute. We're going to expand on this equation, and we're going to do something that's a little bit more involved, more intuitive, and relates back to these concentrations. We're going to expand out pH and pOH. Well, what's pH? It's nothing but log of the concentration of H plus, whereas pOH is the negative log of the concentration of OH minus, and that's equal to 14. Now notice there's a negative on this term and there's a negative on this term. Guess what we can do? We can cancel those out. Essentially, not cancel them out. You can divide the equation by -1. So we get log of H plus log of OH minus is equal to -14. Now here comes the trick. We're going to use some of our logarithmic skills all the way back from algebra. We're going to say, okay, remember log x plus log y is nothing but log xy. We're going to do the same thing. So the log of H plus times the concentration of OH minus is equal to -14. Now we have a logarithm. We have both H plus and OH minus, their concentrations, under one logarithm. So the only way to undo this logarithm is to raise to the power of 10. Why? Because the inverse of the logarithm is raised to the power of 10. So we're just going to stick a 10 down below here. And the 10s and the 10 and the log, they're going to cancel out. And we're left with just a very simple equation. H plus times OH minus is equal to -14. Okay, and that's a really weird shape. That's not what I meant to do. But yep, you get the idea. So, acids and bases are formed on the idea of pH and pOH. And there are many important relationships that you can create out of those two. I hope this actually helped you, and I'll see you in the next video.